melt this when I'm ocean wave.
Today on Nova Legends podcast, I have former Falls Church in West Springfield legendary coach Jim Warren joining me today. Coach, I've been trying to get you on here for a long time. Thanks for joining this. Thanks for doing this.
Well, under protest.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of people are dying to see you. I have a good friend, Steve Hufford, who's from Falls Church, never played for you, but he was a big fan growing up and used to watch all those teams with Pat Dolan and
Oh yeah,
Alan Kendall play. And
I'm still in touch with Alan Kendall.
oh, okay,
yeah.
well, great. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was saying what great teams those guys were.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were good.
Yeah.
Good group.
Yeah, well, let me get your background a little bit because some folks may have forgotten. You're from Clarksburg, West Virginia.
Yep.
And you went to Washington Irving High
Yep,
School
correct.
there. You played in the West Virginia All-Star game with
Yeah.
a guy who's coach here named Bobby Joe Smith and a little known player named Jerry West.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Went to WVU, West Virginia in Morgantown there. In 1960 or last year there, you averaged 10 points a game. You guys finished fifth in the final AP poll. Got into coaching. Came to Falls Church High School. I believe you were the coach when they moved to the new building. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't believe so. No, we were still in the old building.
Still in the old building.
Yeah, I think we were still in the old building.
Still in the old building. Okay.
I think so.
And then eventually, like all coaches did in your day, or most coaches, always going always moving west to the new buildings because that's where all the kids were matriculating to. So you moved to West Springfield, and one of the greatest well-coached teams I've ever seen was the '91 team that went to the state semifinals before losing in overtime to George Wythe. And Jamie Warren will tell me, your son will tell me he was sick that weekend. He wished he can do that one over again.
Right.
But,
by the way, let me correct something.
Okay.
I did go to the new school.
Yeah. Okay.
I did. Yes.
That's what I thought. What's a new
Right.
school?
Yeah, I did go to the new school.
Yeah, I mean it's the school's so old it just doesn't feel that way. But coach, did I get the broad sketches of your career right there?
That's correct. Yes.
Oh, okay.
In the All-Star game, Jerry only had 39.
Is that all?
Willie had 31.
Out of how many? What was the total amount scored?
Oh, I don't remember what the score was, but but then we played All-Star game against Kentucky. And their star was Kelly Coleman.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I've heard that name in years.
We beat them. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Yeah. Good old days.
Yeah, the good old days.
Yeah. So coach, your name came up. It's come up a lot of times as I've been doing these podcasts, but it was really when Grant Hill brought you up as one of the best coaches he ever had as a young player. That was very high praise. He's had some great coaches. So you obviously you must have coached him on the AAU team with your son Jamie. Tell us a little bit about those teams and the run you had with Grant's team.
Well, as 12-year-olds, we won the national championship. I was sort of a consultant. Okay. And then we played 13, 14, and 15.
Wow.
And we beat Indiana. We beat, let's see, I don't know whether it was Kansas, something. But anyway, one of the kids for the other team, I can't remember who it was.
Jamal Mashburn? Was that Jamal Mashburn?
No. Had a scholarship to Kansas.
Oh, wow.
And in the summer, they tried to jump a train, and he ended up under the wheel and lost a leg.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah. And we the 12-year-old thing, we beat Jalen Rose and those guys, the Detroit Super Friends.
Oh, well.
We beat them. Yeah. And the mistake everybody made in all the tournaments was trying to press us. And they forgot that Jamie could throw the baseball pass as well as anybody I've ever seen, except maybe Wes Unseld.
Exactly.
So,
that was a great weapon he had.
Yeah, you throw over the press and you don't have to deal with it.
Coach, when you approach AAU at West Springfield, where I saw your teams play, you guys ran a meticulous offense and your teams were very well drilled. Did you approach AAU basketball the same way?
Yes.
Mhm.
I can tell you a story. We were having a little practice and out on an outdoor court, and we probably had 200 people watching us. It
Wow.
was crazy.
Yeah.
And, so the last year, Grant, we were playing South Carolina, and they had 2 6'10" kids and big. And the last year, you can pick up 2 players from a losing team in the regionals. So we picked up 2 guys you've probably never heard of, Randolph Childress and Charles Harrison.
That's awesome.
And Grant, I believe, Grant fouled out, I think. Or no, he didn't. I called timeout and I said, nobody is to shoot the basketball until Grant touches the ball in low post. Well, Jamie got the ball at the foul line and turned and made one. I called timeout and I chewed him out for making a basket.
Yeah.
But, the rule was you don't shoot until Grant touches the ball.
Yeah.
But, it was a fantastic experience.
Mhm.
We won 2 out of 3. And the one we lost was kind of crazy because we were handling Indiana pretty good. And at halftime, the local people, the executives left, and local people decided to have a shooting contest. So we had to sit in the locker room for an hour. And we came out, I don't want to bash, Grant missed a couple free throws. And we got beat, I think it was by 1. And so that was the only one we lost. But just a fantastic experience when you have 12 guys that want to learn and are willing to work at it. And
It's a different time in AAU because AAU was a true all-star team of our area. We didn't have multiple AAU teams. If you played AAU back then, you were a great player. There wasn't room for everyone for AAU. So it was a whole different thing back then. Even coaching the AAU team was an honor because we were sending our best players from the area to the AAU tournaments.
yeah, when we were 13, this is a crazy story too. Another guy was having an AA team and I heard about it. So I called him and I said, would you want to join forces? And he said, well, coach, he said, you probably can't hang with us. So we scrimmaged them over in Vienna on a little church basketball court inside. They never got the ball across the 10-second line. And it was embarrassing. And
who's that coach?
I don't even remember who it is. I don't want to name names.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were a little bit better than they were, to say the least.
Well, you mentioned Jamie, and for folks who don't remember Jamie was a tremendous player and also a great catcher as well. And he ended up playing at Radford before going to Mary Washington. Had a great career at Mary Washington, a really good player. And I knew Jamie and Keith really well because they were in the Robinson area, and so I had played ball with Keith quite often growing up, and then Jamie would come up and work out with us when he was a young guy, and he was, he grew early. He was always could hang with the big kids. Is it tough to coach your own kids? I mean, was that a distraction to you, or something that you really enjoyed coaching your own kids?
Great experience. And the best thing was they were accepted by their teammates, and I actually think they were accepted by their parents. Yeah. And there was no question. I mean, Keith played for me 3 years, and Jamie played for 4 years. And I was spoiled for 7 years. I had Tim McGrath for 3 years, taking the ball out of bounds, and I had Jamie for 4 years. So I didn't have to worry about a press.
Yeah,
because they both played baseball, could throw the baseball pass, and they could also handle the ball.
Yeah.
So it was no distraction whatsoever. It was just a great experience.
Yeah. And you had just the 2 boys, Keith and Jamie. Is that correct? Okay. So, well,
I have a daughter.
You had a daughter.
A non-athlete.
Okay. Yeah.
Non-competitive.
Yeah. You didn't put that kind of pressure. Poor Keith. I was watching Keith run suicides by himself as a 12-year-old. And I was just like, man, this guy's dad must be crazy. So,
Well, I told them if they went to Robinson, when they played West Springfield, they'd be suspended.
exactly.
They wouldn't be able to leave the house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's been good for me if Keith went to Robinson because he would have either taken my minutes or we would have had to share minutes.
oh,
So, I mean, Keith was a tough player, really good player. And I always enjoyed competing against him. I thought we were always a really good matchup. But well, coach, let's go back to West Virginia. I know you went to high school in Clarksburg. Is that where your family was from, Clarksburg?
yeah. Well, I was born in I remember in Oakland, Maryland, or Kingwood, West Virginia. Yeah. Matter of fact, I was just up in West Virginia this past weekend. Up until 2 weeks ago, there were 4 of the starters, my high school team, still alive. And
right?
one of them had been in a nursing home, and I had gone up 3 weeks ago to see him.
Well,
And
that's
a week later, he passed away. So now there's only 3 of us alive.
Wow.
But we were, our junior year, we were probably the best team in the state. But unfortunately, our 6'9" guy broke his leg a couple of weeks before the state tournament, and we lost to Beckley.
Okay. Beckley's always tough.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Had a guy named Howard Hurt.
Yeah.
Who was, very good.
Now, coach, I know Beckley had a lot of black players, and there's also that school down near Princeton has all the black players. That was awesome. They won. So I mean, when did West Virginia high schools integrate? When did the black players start playing with the white players?
The year after I left, they integrated the high school there at Washington Irving. Yes.
Okay.
And at West Virginia, I was a grad assistant the year that they integrated. We had 4 white players and 4 black players. Fritz Williams was one of them. Yeah.
And I bet you,
what's that?
And I bet you a little known coach named Jimmy Lewis was one of those guys too.
Absolutely. Jimmy Lewis, Norm Holmes, Dick Penrod. Oh yeah. Great group. And we were probably the best, well, at least I think we voted like the best freshman team in the country.
Wow.
And I always wore white socks with everything. And so the guys always got on my tail. And so I told them if they won this one game, I don't know if it was a high U or somebody, that I would sit in the middle of the floor and change socks. And I did.
Yeah.
So, we had a really good time.
Well, coach, I know the basketball culture in the southern part of the state is basketball crazy. I mean, they play basketball at a young age. They have leagues. I went to team camp with the boys from Mullins, Herbie Brooks, and those guys. They were basketball crazy. I've talked to Jim Miller on this podcast and others. Is the basketball culture the same up north? I know Clarksburg's it's probably like 50 miles or so from Morgantown, I believe, right?
Yes.
So is it the same kind of culture as?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah. And I was also at Culpeper when they integrated. I was coach at Culpeper High School when they integrated.
Is that
we
right?
Had a kid by the name of Richard Williams,
Wow.
And great athlete. And I was on the outdoor court with him and got a phone call from the superintendent. And if I see that N on the court again, I'll rip the baskets down.
Wow. Yeah.
And my 3rd year, when my wife and I got married, or we were engaged at the time, after a ball game on a Friday night, the superintendents invited us over, and there was 2 other couples there. And in the course of the conversation, one of them brought up that N-word again, and he had handed me a gift. And I looked at my wife, and I picked up the gift, and I threw it across the room and hit the superintendent right in the chest.
Wow.
And I said, "We're out of here."
Wow.
And called Morgantown the next day on a Saturday, and they had a grad assistant available, said I could have it. And my wife called Fredlock Pharmacy, and Joe Fredlock flew to Culpeper that next Saturday and hired her. So we left at the end of the school year, and I went back and got my master's and was a grad assistant.
What year was that at Culpeper? 60, 67, 66, 65?
Yeah, no, that's when I went to Falls Church.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That's when I went to, I replaced Don.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
That was probably years before Billy. I know Billy.
We were married in 63.
63. Okay.
So that was our 3rd year. I was there 3 years.
Okay.
And then I went and was a grad assistant and got my master's. Yeah.
Well, getting back to Clarksburg for a minute, how'd you get started in basketball?
Oh my Lord, I had a girl for a babysitter and had me kicking the football and playing basketball all the time. Yep. And actually I volunteered to go out for the football team to kick extra points. And the coach said, no,
Right.
he wouldn't let me.
Yeah.
But we played sandlot football tackle every Saturday after the game down on the football field. And, but he wouldn't let me. So,
Well, who were your first heroes in basketball? Who were your first influence?
I saw that question and I'm not sure. Maybe Brett Auerbach, Dean Smith. I was a big Carolina fan. And I used to watch Moo Moo Moore and oh God, what was the other guy's name up in the East? I can't think of it right now. But I used to listen to him. Oh, I saw Hugo Green. I used to listen to him on the radio at night. Yeah.
Was there a lot of basketball on TV back then? Did you watch?
No, on the radio.
On the radio.
Oh, on the radio.
It was all on the radio.
Yeah.
So you probably didn't start watching basketball on TV until probably 1960 or so, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So who are your first coaches that you remember that had an impact on you?
Geez. Well, my high school coach, he always made the 5 starters ride in the car with him. And he smoked El Producto cigars. And have you ever smelt those? Whew, man, we were almost sick before we got to the game.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure he had an impact on me.
Yeah.
So it's probably Coach House.
Right.
Yeah, we kind of got to the university. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we played. We used to come home after practice, go up on the playground, freezing, with sweatpants, sweatshirt, toboggan, and we end up with shorts and t-shirt because the lights had to be out at 10. And we would play. And in the summer, we had a really nice outdoor court in our area of the city, and there'd be 40, 50 guys waiting to play, college guys included. And if you lost the game, you might as well go home.
Yeah.
Because winners stay up. So you sort of learn to play to survive.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We played all the time, and we played football in the summer at an old dirt field up behind us, and we played baseball all day long. I mean, from 8 a.m. till dinner time. So, that's what we did. In the winter, Dick Hall and I, who played at Marshall with Leo Bird, we went in my garage, had a coffee can. We played with a golf ball, 1-on-1. Yep. Yeah. So,
when did you start becoming a top player? I mean, obviously you made the West Virginia All-Star game. So when did you begin to earn a reputation as
my junior year, I did not start. I was the first man off the bench, and they were playing a football player who was friends with the coach's dad. They were friends, but I got to play a lot. The senior year I started, and I averaged 27.5 points a game.
Wow.
And my shooting percentage has always been right around 50. And that's my senior year was 49 point something at the university and 84 at the foul line.
Wow.
So I was always a shooter. Step slow defense, or probably Shouts would have said I was 2 steps slow in defense, but
Well, it's probably pretty good to be 6-man your junior year, because then you don't have to deal with the smoke in the car.
Yes.
But how far did your team go? Did you guys get into the far into the postseason?
All right. We played Parkersburg first game of the year, and we beat them. They had a guy named Bill Fields, who was huge, 6'7", and pretty good player. He was a state champion in the shot put and the disc. Yeah. With very little time left, we were down 1. Guy got the ball at half court, and I picked his pocket and threw it to my teammate for a layup. They took it out of bounds, took 2 dribbles, and all of a sudden the whistle blew. The official, who was a local man, now how in the world they let a local guy officiate that game, I'll never know. But he called a foul, and to this day, matter of fact, I saw one of my teammates at the memorial service Saturday for the young Ed Christie, who died. And to this day, we still do not know who he called the foul on.
Yeah.
And the local paper came out the next day and just flat out said it, that we were cheated. And, end of story.
That was the first round of the postseason.
That was the regional, and that was regional final. We would have gone to state. Yeah,
Oh.
we would have been the Final Four at state. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were good. We didn't have any size. John Harrison, who I just sat with Saturday, was 6'4", maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then everybody else was, I was 6'2", and maybe the others were 6'1", 6 foot. Yeah. But we could shoot, and we could handle. Yeah.
So how did you end up in Morgantown?
Scholarship.
Mm.
That helps.
Yeah. But that was the only school you were interested in?
Yes.
It was
Yeah.
close by. Okay.
That's where I always wanted to go.
Right.
Yeah.
And you, what was Morgantown? What was Morgantown like back in 1952, 53?
Oh, Lord. Well, everything now has moved out to second campus.
Uh-huh.
So, we roomed in the dorm the first year,
Mhm.
and then we, wherever we wanted to room. So, yeah.
Yeah.
But everything was downtown.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah. Now Morgantown was in the old Southern, West Virginia
Old
was in the
Southern
old
Conference,
Southern.
yes,
That was before they were independent. And
right.
the Southern Conference had lost a bunch of teams to the ACC in the mid 50s.
Yeah.
So I guess you guys take those some of those teams' place and join the Southern Conference at that point.
I don't know how it all happened,
Mhm.
but we were still in the Southern Conference when I played, and the last game was against Virginia Tech,
Mhm.
and before we ended up losing to, and I'll tell you about that in a minute, NYU,
Right.
but a Virginia Tech game, and I don't remember the official's name, but every time he officiated, Jerry got in foul trouble. And Jerry fouled out. And I came down, I hit 3 straight long jumpers, and then drove to the hole and went up, and their center came over to block it. And I threw it behind my head to Paul Miller, and he laid it in and got fouled. And we end up winning.
Wow.
And it's laughing because the center called me and said, "I can't believe a walk-on beat us."
Yeah.
And I said, "I hate to tell you, but I won the walk-on."
That's right.
But let me tell you how I ended up, because this is unbelievable.
Mhm.
A week before the season, Coach Shouts called me in and said, you're not gonna be on the travel squad. The
Mhm.
last scrimmage a couple days later was with the Quantico Marines. And he put Jay Jacobs and I, and he was the Morgantown star, in with about 3 minutes to go. And first thing I did, I stole the ball, went down and laid it. And I don't know how many shots I shot that 3 minutes, but I made them all. I probably shot 4 or 5, 6. Well, anyway, Shouts played an extra quarter. And if memory serves me right, I think I was 19 for 21.
Wow.
The next day, I had a uniform and I was a starter and started the whole season. So, you know what they say, you're never over until the fat lady sings.
That's right.
The good Lord was watching over me.
Yeah. Well, 19 for 21. You were pitching in and helping too. So
Yeah. It was a great experience playing with those guys. Yeah.
So in the Southern Conference, you must have had some long bus rides to Davison and some of those schools.
Oh yeah. Well, Davidson, I don't believe was in that then.
Is that right? Okay.
Were they? Okay. GW. I can remember GW when the Feldmans play, and underneath the floor was ice, and my feet were frozen. And I was trying to guard the Feldmans at half court, and they were launching it from half court, and their rims in the Uline Arena were like 2 clothes hangers.
Yeah.
And I think one of them got 40.
Wow.
Man, I tell you, it was really cold. Terrible place to play. As a matter of fact, one of the guys, I had breakfast every Tuesday with 3 ex-coaches, and one of them played at GW. And he said, yeah, it was tough to play there. Yeah, because of the ice underneath the floor.
What was a young Jerry West like? I mean, obviously he was a great player. Was he down to earth guy? Did you know him well?
Great guy. They all were. They were really great guys. Yep.
Right.
And Willie Akers, what, 6'4", 6'5", maybe, banging in there. He's a tremendous warrior. God, he's unbelievable.
Willie Akers was from Mullins, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah. He was from Mullins. Yeah. Jerry was from East Bank.
Yeah.
Jim Ritchie was from Pennsylvania. Yeah. Joe Posh, I think, was New Jersey. And Lee Patrone was from Wheeling. Yep.
So, Coach, you mentioned your WVU coach. What was his name again, and what did you learn from him?
God, Fred Schouts.
Okay,
Brain freeze.
That's okay.
He was a fantastic coach. He really was. And when we graduated, he went to the Lakers. He coached the Lakers. Yeah.
Oh, so some of the things that he implemented, did you use yourself as a coach? I mean, what are the things that
No, he ran the second guard around series. And I ran into him at a clinic up in New York. He was speaking, and ran into him on the elevator. And I said, "Are you still running the second guard?" He says, "Oh yeah." Well, I'm running 5-man motion. He says, "I don't know anything about that." But he was a great coach and a great guy.
Good guy.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Coach, you didn't score a lot and play a lot until your senior year, and all of a sudden you had a fantastic year. Like, as I said before, you averaged 10 points a game. What was the difference? It was just your turn to shine. 10.5. That's right.
10.5.
10.5. That's right. I don't want to teach you out of that. But was it just your turn to shine, or what was the difference your senior year?
I have no idea. Like I said, the good Lord was looking down on me.
Yeah.
Because I got a lot of headlines, and one of them, I've still got it in my scrapbook. He says, "Jim Warren becomes a star." Well, that's a joke. I certainly wasn't a star.
Yeah.
I was just happy to be able to contribute and earn, because for 3 years I didn't earn my scholarship.
Right.
And it was nice to be able to earn my scholarship my senior year.
Well, you referenced the NYU game, and that was future Celtics. Sat Sanders played for that team, and that was the game you guys lost, but it was an overtime game. Do you remember that game pretty well?
Do I remember? It still bugs me today. I drove down the middle, and I swear I'm no more than 4 feet from the basket, right in front of the rim. I know I could have made it. And I saw Jerry cutting baseline, and Sat Sanders was behind him. And I hit Jerry. He goes up, and Sats blocked it from behind. End of story.
Yeah. Did
And
you know he was going to be a great player? Sat Sanders?
Jerry?
No, Sat Sanders.
Lord, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
He's
yes. Good. Yeah. So, well, back then, Coach, they played a regional third place game, because when I went to the record, I was doing my research. I was trying to figure out how'd you guys win your last game, because you always lose your last game, right?
Easy come, easy go. We were all relaxed, and I think I played half the game, I think, and then they played the juniors, but we won. Yeah.
A regional third place game. You would never see that. Maybe at an AAU tournament, you'd see that, but that's about it. Well, you eventually got into coaching. You mentioned earlier that you ended up at Culpeper, at least for a start. Then you went back to West Virginia and got your graduate degree. But why is it that there's so many West Virginia folks that end up coaching in Northern Virginia? You might be able to help me here, but there's Roscoe Dean, there's Bobby Joe Smith, there was Red Jenkins, there was Dick Wickline, there's Ernie Nestor. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but what is it about? Why were there so many coaches from West Virginia that came to Northern Virginia?
Because West Virginia is a great place to be from.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, see, Red Jenkins said they had such a developed basketball culture in the 50s that when he came to Mount Vernon High School, that DC was behind West Virginia in basketball. He said in DC they were playing baseball and they were playing football, and it wasn't until Joe Gallagher and Morgan Wooten kind of changed the culture here. Yeah. But he just thought the basketball was more advanced in West Virginia back in the 50s. Did you feel that way?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. Yeah, West Virginia basketball was big. Yeah.
And so when did you decide you wanted to be a coach?
Oh, early.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, early. Yeah.
So you ended up at Culpeper. And, guy I used to referee was Billy Thornhill. He probably played.
Billy Thornhill, he was athletic director there. For years. I know Billy. Yeah.
Yeah, I used to referee his games back in the '80s. But you were at Culpeper briefly, and then you went back to West Virginia, got your degree, got married, I think.
Right.
And then how did you end up at Falls Church High School?
They had a vacancy. Don was leaving to go to Mount Vernon. Or no, I'm sorry, going to Hayfield.
Oh, that's
He
right.
was going to Hayfield. And the assistant principal was the brother-in-law to my advisor in college. So I had a connection there. Yeah.
What did you think of Northern Virginia when you first came here?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, West Virginia is a great place to be from.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So you get the job at Falls Church. So you were the varsity coach right away. I mean, when you first got the
Right,
job.
yeah.
So it's your first job as a head coach.
Yes.
So how'd you decide what kind of coach you wanted to be and how your teams were going to play?
No, Culpeper was my first job, head coach.
Oh, you were head coach at Culpeper. Okay.
Yeah, I was a head coach at Culpeper. Yeah.
Oh,
I was there
okay.
3 years. Yeah.
You were there for 3 years. Okay. And then
Falls Church. Yeah.
then you came to Falls Church. You developed a style, and were the coaches. I mean, you had some great coaches in Northern Virginia in the late '60s. All the times that you were coaching, you had great competition. Was the competition different here than it had been in Culpeper?
Oh God, our teams in Culpeper were horrible.
Mm.
They had no players. The first year I got there was a 6'8" guy and a 6'7" guy. The 6'7" guy said, "I'd rather drive the school bus." And the 6'8" guy said, "I've got my thumb in 1,000 pies, and basketball's the last one."
Yeah.
So we had no skill whatsoever.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I left after 3 years, and that's when the kids that I started in the 8th grade playing. And, Barry Sudduth was one of my boys, and he ended up playing at VCU.
That's right.
And was a very good player, but I didn't get to coach him.
Yeah.
And so, David Martin and those kids, I played ball with them every Saturday. Every Saturday. Yeah.
Barry Sudduth ended up coaching at Osborne, and he coached Mike.
Absolutely, yes.
He coached Mike Dufresne, who ended up coaching at Osborne himself.
Yep.
And in other places.
Barry was like my shadow.
Yes. Okay.
And when I first started dating Tanis, he did not like her.
Oh.
Because she was taking time away from me, from him. And but we went to a game down in Richmond, and they finally, they saw eye to eye.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Great young man. Unfortunately, he died early.
Yeah, it's too bad. Mike Dufresne said great things about Coach. I did not know Coach myself. Well, Red Jenkins tells a story that you guys had a playoff game, I think, and either you held the ball or they held the ball, but it was probably early in your career, and you were playing against Woodson, and I guess you guys have been rivals that year.
Yeah.
And he said you beat him. I guess you guys held the ball and you guys beat him in a low scoring game. Do you have any recollection of that, Coach?
Well, the only game I remember early was when I had Pat Dolan and them, and he tried to press us, and it was a mistake. That's when he had Workman and Sneed, I believe. Now, I'm not sure that's the game he's talking about, but we let Sneed alone at the high post, and we fronted and backed Workman.
That's the game. That's the game he's talking about.
Okay. And we end up beating them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, we were like racehorses, and, it was a mistake to press us. Yeah.
You know what it was, Coach? He said you let one of their star players shoot outside. He was the guy with all the brothers. One of the Oliverios, you felt he couldn't beat you outside, and you backed off the Oliverio and you let him shoot. And I guess he went 1 for 12 that night, and your strategy worked.
Well, if you can't shoot, one of the coaches that I am very close to now, he said, "I learned something this year," and I've coached for many, 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 many years. If you can't dribble, you can't pass, you can't catch, and you can't shoot, it's very difficult to win.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Yeah. No, it sounds like me as a player there. So, talk about some of those teams you had with Dave Mestropala, Alan Kendall, and and Pat Dolan. I know Pat Dolan was a big time scorer. So what about some of your successes you had with those guys?
Uh, Pat set, I think he set a school record. I believe it was 44. I'm not sure, but it was very close to that. Well, the next game was against his dad. And the guy, and I'm sitting there in the bench, and I saw the guy was right in line with the basket. And when he let it go, I said, "We just got beat." And I said that before the ball ever got to the hoop.
Yeah.
Pat didn't score a point.
Oh wow.
So, yeah.
Who was his father, and where did he coach?
Tom Dolan at McLean.
Oh, I didn't know that was. I didn't know there was.
Yes, Tom
Yeah.
Dolan. Yeah,
Yeah.
at McLean. Yeah.
Did not know.
And we lost to GW
Mhm.
in the final of the region, and only one team went to the state then. And Alan Kendall, who was probably our best player, he was a sophomore, and he was sick as a dog, throwing up and everything, but he played. And I believe the guy's name was China Brown. I think he hit a shot at the corner, and I don't really think he was a great shooter, but he hit the shot in the corner that beat us.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but it was really a great group. Jerry Wall, Rob Childress, and Pat and the Morris kid. Yeah, it was a good group.
And you enjoyed your time at Falls Church?
Absolutely, I enjoyed it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I loved it. And when I finally got some of the black players, Mike Fox, unfortunately, I didn't get to coach them because I left and went to West Springfield. Joe Ragland and that group. Yeah. Carl Lansdowne was one of the best players I've ever had. And he was like, 5'9", ambidextrous. And he used to take 20 aspirins a day because of arthritic knees.
Oh, wow.
And never had a day that he didn't give 110% in practice. Yeah. Tremendous kid.
Right. Well, Coach, why'd you decide to go to West Springfield?
That last year I didn't coach at Falls Church when I was there, and Don talked me into coming over and help. And that's when we had Joe Wilson and Tommy Gothay and Casby Harrison. And honest to God, John said, "I don't think we can win many games." And my project was to teach Tommy Gothay how to shoot, and which we did. And we had a great year. It was the last on a Friday night in the tournament. Robinson beat us when they had Mike Tissot and those guys.
Greg Dennis.
They beat us by I think 35. That was on a Friday night, and on Monday we were to play them in the regionals. And I went over at lunchtime and put the 3-on-3 plus 2 in street clothes in probably 20 minutes because I had to get back to school. And when we got to the game, Don and I were in the hospitality room, and Willie Jones came in, and he said, "I'll try not to embarrass you again tonight." I can't tell you. I think we beat them about 30. And they had a player, I can't think, he's Craig or something.
Craig Brewer.
Who, he snuck down the floor all the time, and he got layups. Well, with our 3-on-3 plus 2, we had 2 guys at half court. So that didn't do him any good. Yeah. And we made something like 28 for 30 at the foul line. And we beat him rather handily, to say the least. Yeah. And but that was a great experience with those guys.
Well, Coach, I talked to Bill Pope. Bill Pope is the current coach at Northside High School. Been there for 40 years. He told me, when I didn't know this, that McCool actually came to Mount Vernon and was the assistant one year. And he was the assistant
with Gordon Hill. With Gordon Hill.
Yeah, that was Bill Pope's senior year. I think Atlee Hamaker was playing. So
he was at Hayfield for 2 years, I think. Was it 2 years or 1?
Okay.
It was either 1 or 2. But then he went to Mount Vernon to help Gordon.
Okay.
And,
And so by then you were head coach at West Springfield.
West Springfield, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're the head coach at West Springfield. Yeah. And you had, when I was a kid, I used to go to all the district tournaments and regional tournaments because they're all at Robinson. I'd watch all. Yeah. And I remember you had Glenn Dieter And the Blondin brothers, Weaver was a tremendous player. Todd was a tremendous player. Then you had Charles Lambert, a guy I love playing. And one more guy, and I couldn't think of his name today, but I know he was the assistant coach over at Lee for Mike Harris for a while in the 90s. A black player from the 70s. I couldn't think of it. Was it Craig? Craig. Matter of fact, Coach, he was sitting with you last time I saw you at Lake Braddock. I saw you and Keith at Lake Braddock.
Craig Hamilton?
Hamilton. Did he play for you at West Springfield?
No.
Oh, he
didn't play for me. No.
Oh, he played for you. Okay. But I got Charles Lambert right, and I got Glenn Dieter and the Blondins. Tell us a little bit about those West Springfield years.
I loved it. Loved it. Yep. Great. And the greatest experience was coaching my two sons. Yeah. And it was great that they were both good players and were accepted by their teammates. And, I wouldn't trade that for anything, and they're great kids. As far as I know, Jamie doesn't have any obvious faults. Keith only has one obvious fault. He refuses to admit that I can hang with him on the golf course.
Oh, wow.
So, he's in denial.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I do have a bad memory for you, Coach. I interviewed Rod Wood and also Charlie Thompson.
Yep.
And I guess you guys are in a regional quarterfinal, maybe semifinal, 1981.
Yeah.
And you guys are at a 1-point lead, and the ball came up, and Todd Blondin, he couldn't control it, and he batted it away from the basket. Rod Wood caught it, shot it at the buzzer, and the game, I think he went into overtime. Do you remember that game?
God, the only game I remember that was down in the tournament. Mm-hmm. This is when I had you, wasn't it? Was it you?
Yeah. He's talking about that would have been early.
I had Billy Jeremiah and Billy Penny and Jeff Stiles and Tom Mulcairn.
Yeah.
Weren't you the point guard?
Yeah, but he's talking about earlier when it was.
That's the only one I remember.
Yeah.
And on that one, Billy Jeremiah goes in for a layup from the left side, and guy plows him on coming at a 45-degree angle. Basket's good. Official, no call, offensive foul.
Well,
couldn't possibly be.
Yeah.
And so we lost.
It's funny how we remember those bad calls. The good ones.
Oh, yeah.
The good ones, we don't remember those so well. But you're talking about Billy Jeremiah. That was a one competitive kid. I remember Keith and Billy going against my good friend Sean Johnson.
Yeah.
Mike McDaniels.
Right.
They had some epic battles. I mean, it was maybe 85, 86.
Yeah.
Those guys, after I graduated, there were some great matchups between Keith and Billy and Sean and Mike McDaniel. I know Keith remembers those games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And Robinson, they probably outmanned you guys, but you always battled them. But in 91, you finally had the team, and I mentioned this earlier, that went to the state tournament, and you had the late Barry Stunson. We talked about Jamie, Jarek Hester,
right?
Current West Potomac coach David Houston.
Yep.
Omid. What's
Omid Mianagas? Just talked to him, and Ryan Contreras.
Ryan Contreras, undersized point guard. That team was one of the most well-coached teams I had ever seen in all my years.
Well,
you guys.
The kids told me that we were probably the slowest team in the region.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we had some skill. Yeah.
Yeah. And Jarek was a good athlete. Barry was a good athlete around the bucket. You had a little bit of everything. And you guys had lost to Chantilly in the regional final.
Right.
They had Tim Fudd and Shane Clancy, I believe.
Right. Yeah.
And you guys went to state. They got destroyed by Bayside.
Right.
Just destroyed. You guys beat Deep Creek, a very talented Deep Creek team in the first round. And then you played George Wythe. Yeah. And George Wythe was a great team. As a matter of fact, they were going to end up losing by 1 point in the state final. Yeah. But they were coached by a guy named Booker, Bob Booker. And they played an incredible matchup zone. They had great size. Yeah. And I really think you guys would have beat them if you had a better shooting night. You guys really didn't shoot. You shot the ball so well, except for that night.
All right. Well, I hate to say this, but I'm going to. A coach from down there came to me when the officials came on the floor, and he told me that official will cheat you. Now, I'm serious. Now, let me tell you what he called a technical on me, and I'll tell you what it was for. I was on my knee, sweating like crazy. I picked up a towel, wiped my head, and dropped the towel to the floor. Boom.
Is that
That
right?
was the technical.
Yeah.
That was the technical. And
I was
that's
at I was at that game down in, it was in Williamsburg. I thought you guys
Yeah.
played a tremendous game.
that was what ended up beating us. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause
I'm
we
sorry to
had-
hear that.
We had a 1-point lead at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, coach, you had a fantastic coaching career. You had the respect of all your peers. When you look at today's game, the way it's spread out with the overuse of 3-pointers, hard to say it's overused because they make them. Do you like the way the game was played today compared to when you
No.
coached? You know,
No,
yeah.
absolutely not. The 3-point, it's okay. But I have 2 pet peeves. One of them is guy goes in, he's 2 feet from the basket, and instead of laying it in for a sure 2, he throws it out to the corner. Maybe 3.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Yeah.
And the other one is the big guys that get the ball between the basket and the foul line. So they're what, 8 feet from the basket?
Mhm.
And either they don't turn it all, or they turn and don't shoot it and pass it out.
Mhm.
And my philosophy is, if you can't make that, you're not going to win anyway.
Yeah.
So those are my 2 pet peeves. And for some reason, the kids today think they get extra points for dribbling. Because I've never met anybody that can dribble the ball faster than a pass.
That's right. Yeah.
Matter of fact, my first thing I do in practice every year was take a ball and put a teammate 15 feet away, and I'll tell the fastest team on the team to start by me, and you take off anytime you want to. And they have never beaten my pass to that.
Yeah.
So, I think the dribble is tremendously overused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My pet peeve is that Euro step and that all the traveling that
Oh.
goes. I can't take it. So coach, what about the parents of today? Parents could always be difficult, but it seems like the expectations and the communication between parents and coaches is more now than ever. Do you think that's something that you'd have a challenge to deal with today?
I couldn't coach today. I can tell you, because and I've talked, like I said, I have breakfast with 3 other coaches and we all are in agreement. Today, it's almost like the parents control, who plays. And now to interview for a job, you have to interview with another teacher, a student, parents. It's not like the old days. And I don't know any coach in the world that is going to not play his best players. And if you're not out there, then obviously you're not one of the best players. And, one of the coaches I had breakfast with this morning brought up the point that a parent came to the coach and said that my son's trainer thinks that he should be starting.
He's getting paid.
I said, wait a minute. I said, are you paying this guy? Yeah. Well, do you think he's going to tell you that he shouldn't start? And this is the world we live in. The parents are trying to control the game, and basketball today is just not like it was. I mean, the crowds, I saw probably 6 Lake Braddock games and 2 West Springfield games this year, and the crowds were non-existent.
Yeah.
The people just aren't coming out.
Mhm.
And we were talking about the talent today. I don't think it's as good. And what's happened, the top elite players are going to the IMGs, the Oak Hills, Paul VI. So I don't know whether you saw the score between Paul VI and DeMatha, 83 to 40.
Yeah.
So the second tier players are what's DeMatha and St. John's and all those guns. That's what they're getting now. So the third tier players are the ones that are playing high school basketball. And a lot of them aren't, some of the teams, for example, the Patriot District won all 4 of their first round games. Did you see the scores?
They just destroyed the national.
Lake Braddock beat Lee 56-24.
Yeah.
And Woodson beat Justice 61-22.
Yeah.
I mean, the score that, they're so weak. There's so many teams are so weak, and I've never, ever seen the scores as low as they were this year. I mean, teams were getting in the 20s and 30s. And I don't ever remember that happening before. So
Yeah, two of the players you're talking about, you were talking about Lake Braddock earlier. Jamie Kaiser down in IMG, Lake Braddock, and Mason So. Lake Braddock is at DeMatha, and so that.
yeah, I know. Yeah, they lost 2 players. That with those 2 players, they'd go to state.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
wins.
they'd win the region. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's
so it's hard.
Yeah. What do you think the key is for Mitras? The key that he's still in there swinging and he's still doing it.
Well, I can tell you because I've watched his practices.
Mhm.
Great coach,
Yeah.
very meticulous. Boy, they game plan. They scout every game. His practices are just fantastic.
Mhm.
And it's no wonder it's hard to fathom that, for the last 5 or 6 years, they've averaged about 85, 90 points a game. And this year, they won 5 games in the regular season. And like he said, if you can't pass, shoot, dribble, and it's hard to win.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Coach, this has been great, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad that Jamie and Keith twisted your arm and got you to do it. I think a lot of people were very happy to hear your story and all your stories and everything. Make sure you tell Keith I said hello, and we got to get together maybe in the postseason. But it's always great to see you, Coach. I always admire.
Read the newspaper headlines on Friday morning. Coach beats son on the golf course.
I will. Is that Keith or is that Jamie?
What's that?
Is that Keith or is that
Keith.
Jamie? That's Keith.
No, Jamie's fine.
Yeah.
Keith is the one that is in denial.
Well, I'm gonna email you guys and I'm gonna see who wins that, and I'm gonna post that on our Facebook.
Okay.
So anyway, tell Keith I said hello, and Coach, it's great to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Good talking to you. Take care, Jerry.
All right, buddy. Take care.
I'm helpless when I'm holding